Every family has its empire. Some build it from love. Ours was built from pride. My name is Vivian Locke, and I was born into a kingdom made of glass, shimmering, flawless, and ready to crack. My father, Edward Locke, founded Locke Industries when he was only 25. By the time I was born, the company was already a dynasty. We weren't just wealthy, we were untouchable. Or so we thought. Before we begin, if you enjoy calm, emotional stories about family, legacy, and redemption, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more reflective storytelling that lingers beyond the ending. From the time I could walk, I was told who I would become, Vivian Locke, heir to the empire. It wasn't a dream, it was a duty. My father used to say, "A Locke never steps away from the throne. We protect what we built, no matter the cost." And that cost was everything. I watched my parents' marriage dissolve under the weight of ambition. My brother, Charles, became my father's mirror, sharp, proud, hungry for control. I became the disappointment, too gentle, too idealistic, too unwilling to worship power. While they spent their nights discussing markets and mergers, I spent mine sketching designs for something different, sustainable architecture, small communities, homes made for people, not profit. Father would look at my sketches and smile, but there was no warmth in it. "Pretty pictures," he'd say. "But they don't build empires, Vivian. Empires require steel, not sentiment." I learned early that in our family, softness was treated like betrayal. When I was 23, my father called a family meeting. Charles had just been named vice president of Locke Industries, and I was offered a position too, not because I was ready, but because optics mattered. "Head of Creative Development," he said, sliding the papers across the table. "You'll make things look good. That's what you're good at." My title was decoration, my decisions, illusions. For a while, I played along. I wore the suits, attended the meetings, spoke the language of numbers and projections. But every day, I felt something die quietly inside me. One evening, after a bored dinner that ended in another argument between Father and Charles, I walked out onto the terrace. The city stretched below lights, towers, reflections. It was beautiful, but empty. Charles followed me out. He poured himself another drink and smirked. "You'll get used to it," he said. "This is the price of greatness." "No," I said softly. "This is the price of greed." He laughed. "You'll never survive outside of this, Vivian. You're too naive for the real world." Maybe he was right. But that night I decided to find out. The next morning, I packed a single bag, left a letter on my father's desk, and walked away from everything: the company, the house, the name. I didn't ask for permission. I didn't say goodbye. The tabloids called it the Locke family scandal. They said I was unstable, emotional, ungrateful. My father said nothing publicly, but privately, he sent word, "She'll be back. They always come back." But I didn't. I moved across the country with nothing but a portfolio and a dream. At first, life was brutal. Rent was late, jobs were scarce, and the name I'd abandoned followed me like a ghost. No one wanted to hire the heiress who ran away. But slowly, I found my footing. I started working with small firms designing community centers, shelters, affordable housing. My sketches, the ones my father once dismissed as pretty pictures, were now shaping lives. And for the first time in my life, I felt alive. 5 years passed. My last name was no longer a curse, it was forgotten. Until one morning, I received an email from a journalist I knew. The headline read, "Locke Industries, faces collapse amid financial scandal." I stared at the screen in silence. The empire that once mocked me for walking away was crumbling from within. And that's when I realized I didn't need to return for revenge. Fate was already doing what greed never could, balancing the scales. But what came next was something I never expected. A week later, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it until I heard the voice I hadn't heard in years. "Vivian," my brother said quietly. "It's Charles." I froze. For a moment, it was like being pulled back into a world I'd buried. He hesitated. "Father's gone. Heart failure. It was sudden." The silence that followed wasn't grief, it was recognition, the kind that comes when a chapter closes the way it was always meant to. "I'm sorry," I said softly, though part of me wasn't sure who I was apologizing for him, or the little girl who still wished things had been different. Charles exhaled shakily. "Viv, the company is falling apart. Investors are pulling out. We're losing everything. I need help." There it was, the same empire that once mocked me for leaving, now reaching for the daughter who dared to stand alone. "I can't fix what you broke," I said gently. He sighed. "You could save it. The designs you're doing now, people love them. The board knows your name still means something. Please, just meet with me, for Father's sake." For a long time, I said nothing. Then I agreed, not for him, not even for Father, but for closure. When I walked back into Locke Industries, it didn't feel like power anymore. It felt hollow. The marble floors gleamed, but the air was tired, like the building itself was holding its breath. The boardroom was filled with unfamiliar faces, except for one, Charles. He looked older, exhausted. The weight of the empire clung to him like armor he no longer wanted to wear. He started the meeting with practiced authority, but when he spoke, his voice trembled. "Our reputation's gone. Our projects are frozen. We're weeks from bankruptcy." The others turned to me. "Ms. Locke," one man said carefully, "you've built a name on integrity and purpose. Investors trust you. If you'd agree to consult, we could still recover." I looked around the table, the same kind of men who once told me I was too emotional to lead. Now they waited for my answer. "I'm not interested in saving what's left," I said calmly. "I'm interested in transforming it." They stared. "If I take this on," I continued, "Locke Industries becomes something new. No more corporate greed, no more empty towers. We turn it into a foundation, sustainable architecture, public housing, education. We rebuild for people, not profit." One of them scoffed. "You'd erase everything your father built." I met his gaze. "No, I'd finally make it mean something." Silence. Then Charles whispered, "Do it." That night, I stood in Father's old office. The city lights glowed through the glass like distant stars. I imagined him there, watching me, furious and proud all at once. I opened the top drawer of his desk. Inside was a letter, sealed and addressed to me. The handwriting was unmistakable. "Vivian, you were right to leave. I built something strong, but not kind. I see that now. I thought control would make you powerful, but you found something greater: freedom. Do with this name what I never could. Make it mean something good." For the first time, I cried for him, not as the man he was, but as the man he almost became. Months passed. The transformation wasn't easy. People fought it. Some left, others stayed. But little by little, the empire shifted its cold marble edges, softening into something human. Locke Industries became the Locke Foundation. We built community homes, restored schools, funded local artists and environmental projects. And slowly, the same journalists who once called my departure rebellion now called it revolution. One day, during an opening ceremony for a new housing project, a young woman approached me. "My mother worked for your company years ago," she said. "She was fired when she got pregnant. She said no one cared back then." I nodded gently. "I'm sorry." She smiled. "You do now. That's what matters." Her words stayed with me long after she left, because that was what I had been searching for all along. A year later, Charles visited my office. He looked lighter, older in the right way. "I didn't think you could do it," he admitted, smiling faintly. "But you did. You turned it into something real." I looked out the window at the city skyline, at the new projects rising glass and steel wrapped around purpose instead of ego. "I didn't do it for Father," I said quietly. I did it for us, so we could live beyond his shadow." He nodded. "He'd be proud, you know." "Maybe," I said. "But that's not what matters anymore." As he left, I noticed a familiar glint in his eyes, respect, not rivalry. And in that moment, I realized the empire I had rebuilt wasn't made of buildings or money. It was made of grace. The newspapers eventually stopped calling me the runaway Locke heiress. Now they called me Vivian Locke, founder of the new legacy, and every time I saw that title, I smiled. Because the word legacy finally meant something different. Not inheritance, not wealth, but change. When I walk through the city now, I saw murals on old Locke buildings, children playing in parks where cold offices once stood, laughter where silence used to echo. I no longer needed to own what they'd mocked me for leaving, because I had built something greater. But still, on quiet nights, I'd think of my father's words. A Locke never steps away from the throne. He was right. I hadn't stepped away. I'd simply built a new one made of light, compassion, and truth. And when people asked how it felt to watch the empire crumble and rise again under my name, I always said the same thing. They mocked me for leaving the family empire, but in the end, I became the empire. If this story resonated with you, please like, comment, and subscribe for more calm, emotional stories that remind us that sometimes walking away isn't weakness. It's the first step toward building something greater.